Okay, so we are here. We are making a Google Doodle inspired turntable after this hip hop anniversary turntable. So I got a spinning circle. I click the mouse on the circle, it stops. I let go, it starts again. All right. So that's about where we're going to go with that. All right. So now I'm going to post this template here. So this record template is the one we're going to use. I have two different sounds in there. So I'm going to go with Apache, a famous breakbeat. Not quite as famous as the Amen, but definitely up there. And I believe even if we go in here, it is by the incredible bongo band Bongo Rock. I think Apache is in here somewhere. If we scroll, there it is. So I can click on that. And all right, so there's a very famous breakbeat in there that we're going to use. All right, so I am loading a sound file into my sketch, so I need to use function preload. I have made this variable which is going to hold my sound file object, so I just do load capital S sound, and then exactly as written here, so in quotes I'll put apache.mp3 and close, and then I'm going to run it. Oop, make sure I spell it correctly. Okay, it gives me the loading, and now it is in. Okay, so now what I can do is I'm just going to do apache.loop. Okay, so there you have it. That gives the impression of a spinning record where it is playing this loop over and over. So that is easy part. So now what I want to do is, just like in here, when I click the mouse, I want it to stop. When I let go, I want it to start again. All right, so I'm going to be using the distance function, the dist, D-I-S-T, that will allow me to click inside the area of a circle and make something happen. So I'm going to do let d equals the distance between, okay, so this is mouse x and this is mouse y. All right, so keeping in mind here that I have translated a certain point. So what I'm going to do now is actually I'm going to add something that, because this translate is going to affect everything in my draw loop, which I don't want it to do. I just want it to affect this spinning line and ellipse here. So there's something I can add which basically kind of contains that translate function to just the code that I want it to affect. So to do that, before the translate, I'm going to write push open close parenthesis, and then after it I'm going to write pop open close parenthesis. So push pop will affect, and this is just saying because I haven't completed this yet, but this is now just going to kind of quarantine, if you excuse the pun there, the code that I have here, so it'll only affect it. So if I do anything else, it won't be translated based on this. It won't move it around. Okay, so then I'm going to go back and do the center of my circle here. Okay, which originally is at 200, 200, but I've translated, so I had to change it there. But I want it to be in the middle, so when I click in the middle, all right? So now what I need to do is if mouse I is pressed, okay, so when I press the mouse, and, because I want a conditional statement, so and that I'm inside the distance, so that the mouse is closer to the center of the circle than the distance, which is actually going to be half the distance. Okay, so D actually, I'm sorry, D, if D is less than half the size of the circle, which in this case is 150, so half of the size of that would be 75. I could make a variable there and divide it by 2, but I'm just going to do the math myself. Okay, so if there, and let's just do a quick check here, console.log, we'll just say inside circle, just so we can see here. Okay, so here we go. I click inside the circle, I click outside the circle. All right, and if you can't hear, I'm just gonna stop that for a second. So it's spinning, I click outside the circle, we don't see anything happen. I click inside the circle, and it says I'm inside the circle. I'm inside. I click outside. Now nothing happens. All right, so now I have that going. So what I could do here now is I could do like start and stop for the Apache loop, but that is actually gonna be weird inside of draw, so I don't want to do that. So what I'm actually gonna do is, if we go to the reference here of the library, I'm gonna go to the P5 sound library and look up sound file, which is what I'm doing when I load a sound into that. And there's a bunch of different methods. This tells me all the stuff. I have play, there's play mode, there's pause, there's loop, we've seen is playing, we've seen stop, we've seen, so there's all kinds of things I can do. I'm interested in rate. So rate is actually going to speed up. So here it gives an example. Okay, so I can speed up or slow down the playback rate of that loop, okay? And this is actually what I want to do to speed it up and slow it down, okay? So I'm going to get rid of that. All right, so I'm going to make a variable called speed, okay? I'm going to make that speed equal to 1. 1 is the rate when it's playing at the right one, okay? Now what I'm also going to do is do speed equals, and I'm going to constrain it just between 0 and 1, okay? And there's something that's going to go wrong here, but I'll let it happen to start with, okay? So if mouse is pressed, what I want to happen is, first I am going to say actually, what I also need to do here is set the rate of Apache dot rate to speed. Okay, and that will change. So what I want to do is I want to make speed take away from speed at about like 0.1. So it's going to continue to take away from the rate of speed here. So let's listen to what happens. Hopefully this will work. Oh, what don't we like? Oh, constrain. Here we go. Okay. So that kind of worked, but when it slowed it down, but it didn't quite stop it, okay? So I am also just gonna sort of do a quick check here, console.log speed, and see what my speed is. So it's 1, it's 1, it's 1. Okay. So there we have, okay, so what happens is it actually, when constraining, it's going to push back a little bit and it's going to take it down slightly. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a little bit less, and I'm going to make these constrain the speed slightly less as well. So we sort of are compensating for that pushback as we do this. So let's see how that works. Okay, so that's what we want. Okay, but then I let go and it goes back. So really what I want it to do is when I let go, I want it to go back to 1. So I'm going to do speed when I let go of the mouse plus equals 0.05, and that should constrain back to 1. So let's see how we do here. Okay, it stopped. All right. Okay, so that gives it more that effect of like a record kind of stopping and speeding back up again instead of just a hard stop there, okay? All right, so we got that going now. So now the other thing I want is I want this angle to also stop. So I want the spinning to stop as well, okay? So what I believe I need to do here is, ooh, you know what? All right, here's what we're gonna need to do. So the angle is changing, okay? I think what we're actually going to do is we could make, see, we want it to stay. A is just going to constantly change. So I think what we want to do is have 0 plus A, or we want a certain, want to change it by something here. Well, let's see what happens, okay? So if that, we're going to make A equal to 0. Okay, so let's see what happens here. Yeah, So it kind of sort of resets itself to that. Okay, so I think what we want to do is we are going to add maybe another one to that. I'll tell you what, I'm going to come back. I'm going to stop the video here and we will restart. I'll show you the next thing we're going to add to this and we'll fix this problem as well.